Welcome to the Husband's Coach's Corner, the podcast that teaches husbands how to love their wife every day and become better men in the process. I'm your host, Chris Scott, aka the Husband Coach. Welcome to another episode of the Husband Coach's Corner. Today is part 2 of a 5-part series titled, How Do You See Your Wife?, which will help us learn things about our wife and begin to see her differently. This series is going to be released once per day for the next 5 days. The goal is that you think through the questions throughout the day and you write down deliberate responses. By the end of the week, you'll hopefully have some ideas so you can take your wife out on a nice date and spend some time with her. If you just want to consume all the content at once, you can go to the Husband Coach YouTube channel. The link to that is in the description. If you have a question or would like to be featured on the podcast, you can send me an email at husbandcoach2020@gmail.com. Let's get into part 2 of How Do You See Your Wife? Here's the first question of the day. Does my wife feel safe to talk to me about anything? This is a crucial question because if you're not developing a safe place for your wife to come talk to you and she feels like she has to withhold stuff, think about all of the opportunities that are being missed because your wife doesn't want to come and talk to you. So you want to make sure that you're creating that safe space as a husband. Sometimes we're intimidating and we can make our wives feel a little uncomfortable. So it's important that we're cautious and aware of what environment we're setting for our wife. So if you find yourself yelling at her a lot, you gotta stop that. Not even slow it down. Just knock that all out. There's no need to yell. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, I have a video on how to manage conflict inside of the marriage, geared towards husbands. You should check that out. The link should be popping up here in a second. The second question for today is, what is my wife's deepest need that I have to fulfill for her? All right. So are you creating a safe space is the first question. The second one is, what is that deepest need that your wife needs you to fulfill? This is deeper than, oh, she just needs me to make money. Nah, or she needs me to clean around the house. No, you have to find what that deeper need is. Once you figure that out, whatever that deep need is with your wife. And one of the ways that you figure this out is you can just sit down and ask her. Don't be afraid to go to your wife and be like, hey, I think that it is important you claim to her you're trying to be a better husband. And in order to do that, you need answers to certain questions. And then you have to be man enough to take the response you get. Sometimes it may be a reaction where she just yells and gets a little emotional and carries on. But sometimes it's a legitimate response, all right? So don't be afraid to go ask your wife, what is the deepest need that I am not meeting for you right now? And she may not have an answer today, but ask her at the end of the day, and then ask her in the morning the next day. Figure out what that deepest need is. And don't be afraid to suggest a few, because she'll either confirm, yep, that's it, or she'll say, no, that's not it. All right. And if she doesn't know, then, hold her accountable to figuring out what it is that you're not meeting for her. All right. Last question for today. How often does my wife have to ask me to do the same thing? How often does your wife have to ask you to do the exact same thing day in, day out? And maybe every week she has to ask you. If you find yourself, and this is more than just one thing, right? If your wife is constantly asking you, hey, can you take out the trash? When you walk in the house, just look at the trash. If it looks like it needs to be taken out, then take it out. Now, that's a simple one, but the things that are in your marriage, because your marriage is it's yours. You guys have to, yours is going to be very specific in the things that you are going to be constantly asked for. Hone in on those things. Ask your wife if you don't know, but you should just pay attention. And every time your wife asks you to do something, make a mental note. Maybe write it down. Maybe don't. I don't know. It's up to you. But if you see that she's constantly asking you to do some of the same things, then you have a conscious choice to either one, do them on a regular basis without her actually asking you to do it, or you can ignore it, which I don't agree, or I don't think you should do, but that is a choice at times. But we're talking about building a better marriage and becoming a better husband, and some of the things that our wives are asking us to do, they're not that earth shattering. It could be something as simple as, why don't you watch a movie with me, or hey, let's watch a movie. Instead of her asking a question, you suggest it, and man, that is a game changer. Promise you, it is a game changer. Thank you for listening to part 2 of How Do I See My Wife? Hopefully this information got you thinking about your wife in a different way, and ultimately is going to help you love your wife. Again, if you have any comments, questions, you can go ahead and reach me at husbandcoach2020@gmail.com. You can check the description or the show notes, and the link to my email address is there. Or you can also follow me on YouTube or subscribe, where I'm posting content regularly that complements what you hear on the podcast. So until the next time, find a way to love your wife every day.